Up here
Yeah.
to make trouble.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Please do.
No, I mean, she's got the history books on how this game works. She's got the database. She's got the receipts and all that. So,
There's a lot of MedTech on Clubhouse.
yeah,
There, so I'd love to get more of it in here.
yeah, I agree. Because it's becoming more and more important, and we saw that in the Google I/O event. That they can't get around it now. It's just getting started, right? It's like they're just starting to get the sensors in place, and
That's right.
yeah.
The whole thing was always dependent on the quality of the sensors,
Hmm.
and the sensors are getting better and better.
Yep.
And there were about 20 startups that were working on self-diagnosing dermatological conditions, and Google knocked them all out of business yesterday.
Were you were you watching the live stream when I said that? I was like, the friend of mine, Alex in Stockholm, has been at it for about 8 years. Where it was exactly that. It's you take a photo of some anomaly on your skin, it gets sent to doctors who are dermatologists, and then they comment on it. And then he started supplementing it by giving the doctors AI that they had on their side. But I'm curious to see how this Google one will play out, and because he was charging $20 per every time somebody sent in a photo to ask, what is this black bump on my skin? And but no doubt the Google one will likely be free and to train the AIs, or the image recognition algorithms and what have you. So we'll see how that all plays out. But he might
No,
have.
this is what Google will do, Tyler.
Hmm?
Google will give it away
Yep.
until everybody gets used to using it,
Yep.
and then they will sunset it.
Yep. You're
That's
right.
what they do with every
You're,
every product we fall in love with.
where is my? And this is why I love having you on stage,
And
because
don't forget
yeah, no, because
pathology as well.
yeah, no, but because when you've been here, this is the benefit of having been watching this rodeo for more than a
Old
minute.
people,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's you.
I'm still pissed at them for Google Reader.
Oh my God! Don't get me started on Google Reader. It's still that was one of the best moments of the web. Honestly, was here. By the way, let's thank you for, and we just got to do this every once a month just to remind people of what the web was at one point. It was Dave Weiner and these. We got to this point where people were self-publishing on their blogs in an open web format that nobody controlled other than themselves, essentially. And Matt Mullenweg deserves some credit with WordPress. He was all about the open web, still is, by the way. And people had their blog that they controlled, and they paid some server to host their blog, but they controlled it, and no company owned it, and you would write on your blog post, and your blog post would go out in an RSS feed, which is a really simple syndication. It's called RSS, and it is really simple. And then there needed to be an RSS reader that would catch all of these RSS feeds that were flying across the interwebs, and you would subscribe to essentially your favorite RSS feeds, and that was Google Reader, and you would subscribe to this blog and then to this blog and to this blog, and most people, I had about it at some point about 200 blogs that I subscribed to, and all of their blog posts would fall into my Google Reader. And my God, that was and still is the best way that what to me was peak internet at that moment, because it was people were writing fantastic blog posts on an almost daily basis, and Google Reader made it very simple to scan through them in a very elegant way and click between them, almost like TV channels, really efficiently, and I organized them in like a news feed, almost like a Twitter feed. But instead of tweets, they were blog posts, and you could just scan through them and read through them chronologically, or just focus on the one. And it was just so cool. And then they got what I'm there was some issue. Why I'm trying to remember why they killed it, because it was so loved. Still is.
Nobody
Yeah,
knows.
Tyler.
Nobody knows
And I
why they
remember,
killed it.
Yeah.
There was no reason. They just got done with it, just like they got done with their Google Plus.
Yeah. Mabwana, what were you saying about the?
Yeah, Tyler, I remember the good old days because I had that one of the top MBA blogs because I applied to Stanford and wrote about my journey and posted every week. It was so great because at one point I wrote a post where like even the admissions department called me because apparently I had said something negative or implied, and they got a flood of calls from the admissions department. But I also remember when they got bought, when Blogger got bought, because I was using Blogger, Google sent me a nice hoodie because they like temporarily lost my blog for like a week, and they were like super, and I was super mad, and they said, "Oh, here's your blog back, and here's a hoodie." It was a really interesting time.
Was it a blogger hoodie?
Yeah, a blogger hoodie. I still have it. I love it.
Dark blue with the little orange bee with the little orange logo?
It's brown with the orange logo. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That was Evan Williams before Twitter.
Yes. And before Medium.
Yeah, well, Medium, yeah. So, just for those who don't know, that was a really interesting turning point because Typekit, which is what a lot of people were using, there was a few of these, blogging platforms that took a little bit of know-how how to set up, kind of like a Shopify account today. And then it just got easier and easier. And Evan really took it to this incredible, he really made it super simple for someone to make a blog with Blogger. And that opened up so that anybody could blog. I mean, it was like drop dead simple blogging platform.
1999.
Yeah.
That's when I started.
Yeah. And when Blogger
LiveJournal still has my heart.
Oh, LiveJournal, that's right.
Yeah, I'm still trying not to be sour, but my peers in blogging in that sphere all had book deals, movie deals. One of the very first mommy bloggers was on LiveJournal, started out on LiveJournal, and I had to shut mine down because of major stalker issues.
Oh.
But it would have been great. I didn't get to monetize because those were still in the very early days, and no one knew how to do that.
Yeah, well, check that out. Yeah. So that was the thing is in the early days of blogs, there was no ads on them. It wasn't monetized. It was like Clubhouse is now. Like people were thinking, is this ever going to get monetized? How would it be monetized? And you know who did it? I know Dr. Francine does, but you know who put the first ad on the first blog? Jason Calacanis put a Volvo ad on a blog, and that was the first ad. It was what they called a skyscraper, these long, big, ads on the side. And Jason's like, hey, I know how to monetize these. Let's slap an ad on these things, because he had a magazine called Silicon Alley Reporter, and in the magazine he had these long, straight ads, called skyscrapers, and his kind of newspaper, magazine.
Yeah, that's how I met him. I was a reader of Silicon Alley Reporter.
Yeah. And then he was like, yeah, let's just put ads on these blogs. That's a piece of cake. Problem solved. What's the debate? And there was a lot of debate because it was kind of this beautifully commercial-free zone, And he's like, no, we're going to monetize this thing. He started slapping ads on everything. And then he realized, because he had all of these advertisers on Silicon Alley Reporter, but no one blog was big enough yet for advertisers. So he put together a network of about 20 blogs, Autoblog and Engadget and Joystick, and on it, and there was like 10 more.
Weblogs.
Weblogs Inc. he called it. And then he got the advertisers. He's like, look, I got these 20 blogs. Together, they bring in enough traffic. So why don't you run an ad on these 20 blogs? Volvo ran the very first ad. And next thing you know, blogs are being monetized with clickable ads, on the top, big horizontal ads, big vertical ads. And it was a very heated debate, when that happened. Like it was
and now we have the shit show that we have now. Hey, you know what, Tyler?
Yeah.
We should assign, or you should assign, since this is your club and room, the Clue Train Manifesto as homework.
Yeah.
The Clue Train Manifesto was what Doc Searles and two other people wrote.
Yes, Doc Searles. Oh my God.
Yes, he's still out here.
Of course. Yeah, Rick Levine. And
right.
Yeah, here it is. Clue Train Manifesto.
Markets are conversations.
Yes. I'm going to read it from the Wikipedia article right here. Clue Train Manifesto is a work of business literature collaboratively authored by Rick Levine, Christopher Locke, Doc Searles, and Dave Weinberger. Was that Dave Weiner's real name? No, that's a different guy, Dave Weinberger, sorry. But from New York. and it was first posted on the web
Yeah.
1999 as a set of 95 theses and was published as a book in 2000 with 7 essays. The work examined the impact of the internet on marketing, claiming that conventional marketing techniques are rendered obsolete by the online conversations that consumers have and that companies need to join. Boy, it sounds a little bit like what people talk about in Clubhouse these days, is it not? And the overview section says the Clue Train Manifesto was written and first posted in March of 1999. A revised edition came out later. In its central thesis, markets are conversations. The work asserts that the internet is unlike conventional media used in mass marketing, as it enables conversations amongst consumers and between consumers and companies. And that was the really revolutionary thing, was, oh my God, the consumers are now have a platform to talk to each other, and they're not controlled by, this top-down media system, and they've got these blogs where they're able to have real conversations with each other, although very slowly through blog posts, essentially, and comment sections on the blog post. And it was game changing. And the fact that the consumers are now talking amongst each other and they're in control, they're taking control out of the hands of, the traditional media powers that be. It was really, it forced people to totally rethink things. Yeah. I'm gonna, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna tweet this.
I want to chime in.
Yeah, I'm gonna tweet this from the Tech News Around the World Twitter account. Thank you, Francine. So it's called the Clue Train Manifesto. You're right. That is brilliant homework. Go ahead.
I have another thing to chime in. You're talking about blog. The thing was that with the first thing I really reacted on was Usenet.
Yeah.
Really, really old Usenet, and it's still in use today. That was the first blogs where you actually could comment on other people's things. That then led to RSS feeds and the blogs.
True.
So I feel very,
correct.
very old.
Usenet. Correct.
Yep.
Now, you're not as old as I am, but I remember using it.
Yeah. Now you really get into.
See, these is from before the browser. When you get into bulletin boards, you're into when the internet was only between universities, and it was really for research, and it was a DARPA project.
Yeah, and before Mosaic, the browser, and this is where Andreessen Horowitz comes in with Mark Andreessen, really changed the web fundamentally with the Mosaic web browser, and all of a sudden it became very graphical and clickable, like Windows 95. And
I still use Lynx. It's called Lynx nowadays, which was the first graphic. Yes.
Yeah.
That's a riot. Lynx.
Yeah, I know. we're all waxing nostalgically about how innocent it all started. But it's amazing. I mean, it's important to take minutes to reflect back on the nostalgia of it, to see how it has evolved and continues to evolve. But it's really interesting. Somebody should do a good 2-hour YouTube video, starting with Tim Berners-Lee and the universities and DARPA.
I've heard that Tim Berners-Lee is coming on Clubhouse.
That's correct.
You told me. You must.
That's right. I hope.
Are you going to bring him on, Tyler?
We hope to have an announcement very soon. It's purely a function of date selection, it seems, at this point.
And you need to record it.
Of course. Yeah, of course. I'm curious to see what he thinks of Clubhouse, actually, and he's got his own. He's working on his own new stuff right now, and that's part.
I want to get Doc Searles on because I want to know, because in Clubhouse we really are doing a form of markets or conversations.
Yep. That's why I said when I was reading that, I was like, you know what? This is just so appropriate to what we are doing. That points that they were making back then about, the consumers are now talking amongst themselves, and the dynamic shifted, and these brands better get into this, and that point recirculated again when Twitter started breaking out. It's like, the brands better get into this social media thing. And of course they did. And now we're saying, in essence, the same thing in Clubhouse again. It's like, oh, all the people are talking again now. These companies better get their shit together because this is going to game change again. But the blogs is the first time that happened, the first time around, and they were right.
Yeah, you remember? Do you remember Gopher as well before the web?
I don't remember I vaguely remember Gopher, I should say.
Yeah, because that was actually the
And
first
Archie.
text-able search, and Archie. Yeah, Archie was one of the first global search
Gopher.
engines
One of the
that were
first
available.
Gophers were like with the way that you searched.
Yeah, and go find. Oh yeah, go find. Oh, that's right. On almost like a command line thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was command line on
Yeah,
Linus
that's right.
Solaris.
Gopher. That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sorry, it took me a minute to go back that far in the database, in the memory banks. Oh, anyway, so
I'm going to look all this stuff up and make a glossary of early internet terms.
yeah, but that's why I was saying it would be beautiful if somebody really made a well-crafted, 90-minute, chronological, just to catch up everyone who's coming into the web now on how we got here, basically.
Who was on BBS, like Bulletin Board Systems?
Yeah.
I still have my Fader node.
I was.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
I was running a Renegade BBS.
But that's why in the early days of blogging was such a magical time, Tyler, and everyone, of course, who knows that. And it reminds me of like sort of beta Clubhouse.
Yeah.
But it was even more magical then because it was really brand new.
Yeah.
Meaning you can build connections and communities. People were sharing things through their blogs that they've never even shared with their closest friends and family.
Yep.
And a lot of my readers are still friends of mine, and we still give each other gifts and send each other letters. It was really a magical time.
Indeed.
And I think advertising just destroyed it.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I just wanted to say that we're at the start of something entirely new with the immersive web. We're
totally
pretty much doing the same exact thing all over again. So just be prepared, you guys.
That's what I'm saying.
Alrighty.
The lessons are repeating themselves. So, and that's what I'm saying. It will, if you really if you want some insight as to how the next chapter will play out, read chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4 before you start reading chapter 5. Because if you jump into the book on chapter 5, it'll be interesting. In fact, it'll blow your mind. But you'll understand it in a deeper way if you read chapters 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's my point of hoping somebody makes a kind of a documentary about the generations of how we got here.
Tyler, you were. This is Andre at the bottom. You were making me laugh yesterday when you brought up VO, because I remember choosing like back in 2008 maybe or something. I don't remember VO over YouTube because at the time they were promoting more like they were I think they were promoting that your video would not have like artifacting or buffering, and they were like promoting that they could get to like 720 or 1080 streaming around the same time YouTube was, and we just made like some silly movie, and we were thinking, what platform should we upload it to, YouTube or VO?
Right.
So that's it is kind of that repeating process.
Yep.
But just to extend on what you brought up yesterday with that company VO.
Yeah. So check this out. So remember, I mentioned my friend who created that. His name's Dimitri Shapiro. So I wake up this morning and guess who I have a message from on Facebook Messenger? Dimitri Shapiro, and he says, where is it? We chatted for a bit. He says, where is it? We chatted today. Hey, he says, hey pal, smiley face. I said, hey, did you chat with Paul? And he's all, which Paul? I said, Clubhouse CEO Paul. He's from Del Mar. We're from San Diego and Encinitas, Dimitri and I, which is next door to Del Mar, where Paul's from. And he says, I said he was in the Clubhouse room last night, and we were talking about at the Google I/O keynote, and we were talking about Google Plus. And I mentioned you, and I mentioned you're from San Diego, and I assumed maybe Paul reached out to Dimitri because there's a chance they're friends because we're from the same hometown. And he says, no, I don't know Paul. But somebody else in the room knows Dimitri, and he goes, someone pinged me and said they heard you talking talking me up on Clubhouse, which I was. But so I'll ping Dimitri right now with a link to this room right now and ask him if he can join, although he doesn't have a Clubhouse account apparently, because I just did a search for him. So let's see if Dimitri, who was not only the creator of Veo, but then left to be the CTO of MySpace, and that's why he got the job to run Google Plus, or the Google social network. And he's got some fantastic stories, as well. But I just sent him the link to Clubhouse. I got to send him an invite to even join the damn thing, because he doesn't.
Yeah, you can send him an invite right into this club.
I did just now. So hopefully he'll join us today. We'll see what happens. I also somebody broke news in the last session that we did. And apologies to whoever I'm jumped on top of. In Stockholm, they renamed the Ericsson Globe, the massive sports arena in the center of Stockholm. They renamed it Avicii Arena, and as many of you know, Tim and I was quite friendly with Tim, and more so with his partner Ash, who's one of my very, very dearest friends. So I asked Ash about the renaming of Ericsson Globe to Avicii Arena, how he felt about it, and he gave like a chef's kiss. He's kind of peachy about it. Anyway, what Heyman, you were saying?
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. No. Okay, so let's see if Dimitri joins us. He was on Facebook 18 minutes ago, so hopefully he'll circle back and see my invite. But
that would be an incredible thing, because just to piggyback on it again, the whole thing between choosing at the time between YouTube and Veo, it wasn't such a monetization machine at that point. It wasn't a churn and burn.
No, neither of them. They were burning money at that time. It was pre-monetization. Yeah.
Right, and so we were thinking along the lines of not like a quantity, but it's like we want the video that we're going to upload to be like a long-lasting movie. Which one of the platforms is going to like show it, the best? Like that's kind of like what we were thinking at the time before the whole onslaught of like before like machinima and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the mass production content mills, but Veo, because they had a little bit of a head start, they caught the attention of the music labels, and they had music content on there, and the music label said, hey, that's our content, and every instance is $100,000, and so here's your $1 billion lawsuit, Mr. Dimitri Shapiro, what are you going to do? And he had to fold because he didn't have any like real strong corporate alliances, and YouTube got into bed with Google quite early in their existence. So Google very cleverly said, made an arrangement with the record labels, because YouTube also faced the wrath of the record labels very early on, but they managed to do a little judo move and get them on board with monetizing, because Google knew how to monetize the content, because that's what they are, is they're an ad network. So they could monetize all of it, and got the labels on board with them, and not suing them, but to be partners with them with all of this copywritten content. And it's all really interesting how that all played out. And there's really interesting lessons there, with how blogs became commercialized, with how YouTube and the video platform wars, and all of these things will play into VR, and they play into Clubhouse, this format that all the big tech companies have now carbon copied. It's all very useful historical context and lenses through which to understand how this will play out. So a couple folks raising their hands here. Let's welcome some new folks here: Gray, Munford, and David Fox. Because I think everybody else on stage is quite regular. Yeah, go ahead.
Meda, is she there? She wanted to speak the last session before you cut me off.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Is she back? Yes, Magda.
She's on stage.
Hi.
Hey, Magda.
I'm here. I'm here. Let me just
enter
my house.
Magda, are you a robot? That sounds... So we were talking in the last session. We got into a rather heated conversation about social
about what's going
commerce.
to happen with Shopify.
Shopify, right.
Yes, and
specifically, let me set the context for you, Magda, and then I'll give you the floor.
Sure.
So essentially, we last night, well, for me last night, yesterday at this time, we watched the Google I/O keynote where they revealed, somewhat for the first time, that in how they envision one interesting aspect of social commerce is YouTube videos, and not only YouTube videos, Google Photos, and a few other Google properties will all be monetizable because the machine learning algorithms can detect products inside of videos and photos and etc. and make them clickable, and those items are purchasable. That's the example that they gave in the keynote, where you're watching a YouTube video, you see somebody with a pair of shoes, and this is an old video, and now those shoes can be clicked on and purchased because you saw those shoes and you like those shoes in that video. And the question is, when we saw that in real time, it was like, oh shit, wow, that's fantastic. What's making that happen? What is the actual click trail, going on behind that? Because that's a huge financial revolution in that little 1 second demonstration. And they announced that it was a partnership with Shopify during the keynote. And then, hours later, it was revealed that the way, in essence, they're starting to reveal more and more of specifically how it works. What we know thus far is they're saying when you click on those shoes, it will take you to Shopify, where there will be likely multiple people selling that shoe. But basically, if you want to be they said you need to create a Shopify account and link it to your Google accounts like YouTube if you want to start monetizing in that kind of way. Let me find the article so we get the details correct. But is that good enough context, Magda?
I think so, yes.
And you being that this is your kind of your neck of the woods. Yeah,
it's my area. Yeah. So I think that, I believe that it's not going to be what it sounds like, as in, I don't think it's going to be an exclusive deal with Shopify, which is basically what the conversation sounds like, right? Like, it sounds as though, like the way that you guys were talking about it, it sounds as though you're saying that the only way to purchase those products will be via Shopify. And I don't think that's the way it's going to work, and I don't think so for a couple of reasons. Sorry that I'm a little bit out of breath, but I was just on my way home and had to walk up 3 flights of stairs, so that's why. But why do I not believe that that's what it is? First of all, because Shopify already has the same kind of plugins for Pinterest Lens, for Facebook, and for Instagram, and I think even maybe possibly for TikTok. So it would not make any sense for Google to give an exclusive to Shopify if they have an exclusive if they are not exclusive with Google and actually have all those other shoppable pins on all those other platforms. So the way that I think it's going to work is actually through integration with Google Merchant Center, which is basically Google's shopping platform. So that's where you upload catalogs of your products if you have an e-commerce business. And Google is pretty advanced with Google Merchant Center and with Google Shopping. You can actually, like when I run my ads, for example, for Facebook, and I want my products to be really well described and to have modifications, to have specific specific things written about the products, pricing differences, things like that. I actually upload my product feed to Google Merchant Center. I upload a modifier feed to Google Merchant Center because the Google API allows you to do that. And then I, export a link with the integrated feed to Google Shopping. And looking through, how Google has been actually modifying its shopping experience, one of the things you might have noticed now when you do an image search is you have like a little tag which says product if you search for a product. So for example, if you type in Calvin Klein Euphoria perfume into your Google image search, you will get pictures of Calvin Klein Euphoria bottles, perfume bottles, and there will be like a little tag saying product. So Google has basically made this available to people for free. You can, like, it recognizes the products, and like it lets you kind of use that for, like if somebody wants to go shopping, they can do that through the image search. So it wouldn't make any sense for Google to have developed all that and to then suddenly say like, oh, we're only making this available for Shopify. So I think the way it's going to work is just that they're going to provide an easy integration with Shopify. So setting up a product feed in Google is like in Google Merchant Center is not so simple. Like if you don't know what you're doing to, to add all the different things so that like, that it's a white t-shirt, like all that stuff, right? Like you need to really know how to set up your XML to be able to provide Google with that data properly. So I think that what they've done with the integration is if you look in the Google Merchant Center, in the settings, I believe it's, there's something called integrations or partnerships or something like that. If you enter there, there's something which is called integrations, like partnership integrations. And I don't see it for America because I'm located in Poland. So I don't know what's there in the American market, but in Poland we have, for example, PayPal or some payment integrations. But I believe that what they will do is they will provide a quick integration with Shopify, which will essentially enable you as a small business, because, like Google Merchant Center, a big company can handle, right? It's not a problem.
Yep.
But if you're a small business, setting it up is really, difficult and problematic. And where are all the small businesses, especially in the US? They're on Shopify. So essentially, if you're a small business, Google is kind of doing the nice thing for small businesses and letting them have that integration. Basically it's all set up for them so they can easily use that feature. But I think the main thing...
I totally get it, because, and the point that you're making, it all makes sense, and thank you for clarifying this, which is Shopify does come into play for the actual YouTube content creators to be able to put products in that they themselves want to sell, essentially, and they might actually get some kind of visible preference, to buy directly from the content creator who's selling the shoes in their video. But it'll show lots of other people who's selling those shoes, probably people near you geographically, as we said before. That would make a lot of sense. And by the way, this happens today, a lot of what you're describing. When I search on Google search engine for a product here in Thailand, it shows me Lazada and Banggood and 5 other e-commerce sites all nicely next to each other, and I can pick this pair of tennis shoes if I want to buy it from. There's 5 different people selling it on Lazada, which is like an Asian version of Amazon, and then there's Shopee from Singapore, and they've got a few sellers that have the shoe, and then there's Banggood, and they've got a few sellers that have the shoe. And Google does a fantastic way of pulling in all of those different shops on all of those different platforms and putting them all really neatly in one little spot. But
exactly,
those are professional kind of outlets. And what's missing is how do we onboard the content creators to be able to sell stuff? And that's partly where Shopify would come in, because that's a more kind of consumerish friendly platform where the YouTube content creators could participate in this ecosystem, this e-commerce ecosystem. Yeah.
Hi,
yes.
I'd just like to get in on that, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
Shirley, Three.
Yeah.
So I actually think this is interesting that Google is coming to this space, because obviously, as is it Magda? You say that there's integration with Shopify and Google, but what I think is Google is doing, they're making a play, as you say, for the content creators. Now, content creators, if you look at a lot of YouTubers, they've basically got things like extensions to print on demand services such as Teespring. There's so many of them right now. So now these guys are becoming names in themselves. So they've been able to capitalize on that. One of the guys, PewDiePie, obviously is one of the biggest, but now a lot of guys, once they're monetized, they get past a certain point, they're able to sell their services. So I think that this is really a play for Google to try and push out some of the they call them print on demand services that basically allow you to have a business without keeping any stock and just like selling designs, and then they sort of partner with you to get the stuff out. This also is it supports marketplaces such as Etsy as well. So I think it's really interesting that I think Google's trying to make a play for the content creators and push out the other POD suppliers.
Yeah, it's gonna be very interesting. I'm looking at the recent article, and it's not, as I said, it's not just YouTube, but it's also Google Maps, and that gets really interesting because we had talked about what Apple and let's try and imagine what the hell do they mean by Google Maps, because it's easy to understand the YouTube version where you're watching a YouTube video and somebody's got shoes that you want to buy, but they also mentioned Google Search, which I just described here. When I search for this new drone that I want to buy, it shows me 3 different e-commerce platforms and 4 sellers from each of them in this really nice little carousel view. But in Maps, how are products going to be sold in Maps? And this could get really, really crazy, which is, and we thought Apple might do this, but easily Google could do this too, because when you're on Google Maps and when you're in 3D view, and they showed this in their video yesterday when we watched it together, you're in 3D view, which they talked about how proud they are of their Google Street View, and you're walking down some street with a bunch of shops on it. You can now click on the front door where it's a clickable link that will show you the important details of that shop, like their opening hours, their phone number, their address, and reviews, the Google reviews for that shop, and the website. And why should it send you to their website, which generally they don't often have? Why not let me buy the products from that store right there in Google Street View? And because then you're opening up a competitor to Amazon, essentially, by doing that as this new discovery mechanism. Right there in Google Street View, you can see all the shops and go down to Street View level if you want. You don't even need to go to Street View level. You could still be in Bird View and click on shops and see their details and provide me a link to the e-commerce right there. That would be really huge. And it seems like when they say that this is coming, they're what they call their shopping graph. That's the official word they're using. They're going to develop the shopping graph, and the shopping graph can span across Google's platforms, whether someone is discovering products through Google search or even watching videos on YouTube or Google Maps. For example, when you now view screenshots of products in Google Photos, there will be a suggestion to search the photo using Google Lens to help you find the item for sale. And Google announced earlier this year it was pilot testing a new experience on YouTube that allows users to shop products they learn about from their favorite creators, a move to counteract the growing threats from TikTok and Facebook and their own investment into e-commerce. Exactly right. However, Facebook is also partnering with Shopify, and it'll be interesting to see who TikTok is partnering with. But no doubt, TikTok is going to very much get into the e-commerce side of things, as is Instagram and Pinterest and everybody. It's going to be a Cambrian explosion of social media e-commerce, and we're going to follow with great interest the details of how this plays out. Let me finish reading this to see if there's any more nuggets in this. It says, but before any of this shopping graph functionality can really work, Google needs consumers to find shopping for its products. And that's partially why Google made it free for merchants to sell their products across Google this past year, to ramp up get all the links connecting. And that's why Google says it drove an 80% increase in merchants on Google's platform, as you were talking about, Magda. And then that's where the partnership with Shopify comes in too. Though this integration doesn't mean that every Shopify storefront will be included in Google, the merchants have to take action to make that happen. It will almost be a no-brainer for them to leverage this new option. Obviously, who's going to refuse a whole bunch of flood of new visibility to your store? Shopify isn't playing favorites, though, when it comes to distribution. It's integrated with other large platforms too, like Facebook and TikTok, just as I just said. And that's why Shopify is in such a fantastic position as a partner for all of these social commerce or social media sites to become e-commerce portals, including Google Maps. It's fantastic. So if you have a lot of traffic and you are a big website with lots of users, you too can become an e-commerce portal. And by the way, it's suspected that Apple will need to get into this game too in their big event coming up, WWDC. We're going to be watching with great interest to see if they're going to do the same thing on their Google Maps, where their Apple Maps and their VR ecosystem, where when you're going through Apple Maps through the city, will you be able to click on a store, and will that be an e-commerce portal as well? And will it be Shopify who's powering that for them? To be determined.
So with Maps, Google already has everything in place to make that happen because it already has local inventory ads, which basically, give you what kind of inventory is available in which local stores. So the only thing that Maps are doing is essentially just, if you have your business listed on Google My Business, then the only thing it's doing is just adding the shopping experience, the local ads. Yes, exactly.
The SKU numbers and the inventory. The number of
exactly,
and they even said that in the Google I/O. By the way, real subtle. I was watching for it, and that's why the only reason I noticed it. If I wasn't looking for it, I would have missed it. But they showed that one of the secret and critical links to make this happen is we're going to need to know. They named it, and then they in light gray font underneath it said where your SKU and your number of inventory. I was like, aha! They're going to start tracking all of the SKUs in your store and the number of items you have, and that's what they need for to make the e-commerce happen. Yeah, I was wondering though if rather than making stores enter their SKU numbers, which is kind of a painstaking mechanical manual process, why not you if your phone has image recognition now that's really intelligent, can I put it on a pair of shoes and it knows the SKU number of those shoes for me, and then it just says how many of these do you have in stock, and I say 5, okay, done, next. That would be a fantastic way to do your stocking of your e-commerce portal. So anyway,
that's the next step.
Yeah,
but I wanted to add one more.
Really do that actually.
Yeah,
I think you can photograph a product on the Amazon app, and particularly if it's just a box of a product or something, it can do exactly that. Look up the product. So.
Yeah.
To add one more thing to the discussion, because the thing which you were talking about in terms of the influencers, the content creators, I don't think that it's going to be, that they cannot sell products from other shops as well. They probably will be able to. And the thing which I think will be interesting to see where things will go is if they will make it paid, like AdSense or whatever, right? Like if you're a creator, you could before in the past put ads inside your video. You could choose to do it or not to do it, and you would get paid something for basically making that sale through your video.
Right.
So like it will be interesting to see if they will do this or not, because they've recently just made it impossible to opt out of having ads. So it will be interesting to see if they will be sharing that fee with the creators or not. But I don't think that they would. I mean, I think it's more likely that they probably will do something about it, like some kind of fee sharing situation, because it's in their interest for content creators to be on their platform and not to suddenly start running away and switching to whatever other platform, right?
Of course, because the content creators are going to be like, look, where am I getting paid? Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's like that's a no-brainer. So it's like, if the platform is like not being, at some point, and this happened, by the way, already historically with like Vine, for example, where basically all the content creators got together, kind of formed a soft union of sorts and started making demands, right? I was like, we're going to go where we're treated, best or more fairly, what have you. So I mean, and the content creators on YouTube are, if they aim to actually do have a way to monetize in addition to the views, a lot of them now, the ones who have been around for a while, are putting links in their descriptions to Amazon and getting the affiliate, money from that. So the party's already started over there. They kind of forced it. Some of the more professionally minded ones, and now that's going to scale out, and it'll be curious to see which platforms provide the best, return on time, your investment in the form of your your time as a content creator. Where are you best investing your time, on Instagram or on Twitter or on Clubhouse or on here or there? It's like, it's going to be
Of course,
very
they
interesting.
could be sneaky about it, and they could make it the other way around. So they could make businesses pay so that if a content creator creates a video for them and they don't want any other ads of any other pins, like, any other shoppable kind of clicks or whatever you want to call it, if they don't want competition to show up on that video and they want only your shop to show up on the video, they could make that feature a paid feature so that you can. So, we'll see. I think that's the interesting thing to kind of see moving forward. Like, which way will they go? Will they be the good guys, or will they, kind of try to squeeze every penny out of everyone, essentially?
I think. Go ahead.
Wanted to add, really, I think that just if you look at from 5 years ago, what we're seeing is a convergence of sellers turning into content creators, because now you've got things like Amazon Live. That's not live globally, but I know it is in the US. They're trialing it. And then you've got vice versa, content creators turning into sellers. I just wanted to say, though, you mentioned something about the websites, and I really feel that this is going to be a major game changer for, I would say, typically bricks and mortar companies that are not very good at SEO, for example. They're not good at discovery. So if you look at the popular media, there's always a narrative saying, oh my gosh, Amazon is putting the high street out of business. Actually, a lot of these high street stores do have their e-commerce websites. It's just that they cannot compete with Amazon. So if they're able to sell via this, this Google Street View, whatever, I think that will be really, really good for them in terms of visibility. I guess my question is, how will they handle logistics? And will they all have to sort of sign up to, SLAs like Amazon? It's, Prime, it's 2 days. You can even get Prime within 1 hour, 2 hours, depending on how close you are to a hub. And I think that is really going to make the difference between who's going to win the game between, let's say, what Google's trying to do and what Amazon's trying to do. So I just wanted to add that.
Cloud warehouses.
Yep. So I want to jump into the shift gears and thank you, Magda and
Tyler,
Shirley for your insights. Yes, Cheryl?
Can you bring Monica up?
Yeah,
Thank you, Magda, by the way.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Where's Monica?
Welcome. Yeah. Monica, raise your hand.
She knows. She shouldn't even. Oh, there she is. Hey, Monica. And we'll circle back to Monica in a second. Or did you want to something you want to share right now, Monica?
No, Tyler, I'll wait. No problem.
Okay. And by the way, I heard your room went very well. Your Asia Tech room. Cal and others said you did very well, but I said I'm not surprised because you're.
I think I'm going to get shot if I go home. I leaked some information there that I probably shouldn't have.
To who? Oh, in that room, you mean?
Who? We didn't hear anything, Ross. We didn't hear anything.
Hold on. What happened, Ross?
No, there was. I mean, it was a fun room. It was a lovely room. There was a bunch of lovely Indian brothers and sisters there, and then of course I'm Pakistani, and there was some Pakistani. I think there should have been some Pakistani brothers and sisters there. And then I got my hands on some information from Pakistan about a crypto task force being set up. And then there was some comments around an Indian task force
starting some World War III beef in Clubhouse already.
No. So I just.
Now you bring it up again.
No, it's fine. I don't care.
Yeah.
And crap, and I've just done it again.
Yeah.
And they were talking. And they were talking about what's happening on that side of the border, and I said, well, I don't give a crap, but there's some information. I've just got my hands on a paper about a task force being set up, and of course, when you have a task force that's being led by a couple of ministers that know nothing about crypto, and you've got two individuals that probably know something, then you can only imagine what's going on. And I've kind of told them about the other side of what's happening. So, anyhow, just a little bit of X-Files comedy for the room.
I'll give you a medical note saying you're delirious, so you'll be okay, I think.
Okay, can I bring up two news then? One is related to India. The other one is China.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. First, China hits cryptocurrencies with double whammy. Inner Mongolian government has set up a platform for people to report crypto mining projects in order to close them.
Whoa.
So crypto universe has been hit by 2 dollops of bad news this week as authorities in the world's biggest Bitcoin mining nation intensify a crackdown on the digital asset.
Interesting, because David, who joins us now almost every day, is in part related to the teams that of managing the teams that do that mining in Mongolia.
Yeah, so besides that, on the same day, 3 financial self-regulatory bodies issued a joint notice banning financial institutions and payment companies from directly or indirectly providing cryptocurrency services to customers, including accepting the currency as payment. They also warn against the risk of speculating in crypto and urge individuals to be wary of scams after police in Anhui province said they busted a digital currency pyramid scheme, Ponzi scheme, involving about 3,000 people and more than 200 million yuan. China has long taken a negative view of crypto amid concerns over the potential risks to the domestic financial system posed by a surge in the speculation.
Cool.
So that is for China.
Yeah, and that's partly why. It's a rumored that's a part of the reason why Bitcoin and all the cryptos have fallen so far today. Like Ethereum down 25%. Jesus.
Right.
Yeah.
And one more from India. Just 1 hour ago, there's a news on Economic Times that India's largest crypto exchange crashes as investors scramble to exit. So that's why I wanted Monica to be able to say.
What was that one though?
This one?
Yeah, the India one.
India's largest crypto exchange crashes as investors scramble to exit.
Yeah, well, apparently Coinbase is having hiccups as well.
Yep.
Yeah, because there's the volume is going so crazy right now. As you know, that the exchanges are still relatively new, unlike NASDAQ and I mean Coinbase, as big as it is still relatively new as an exchange and trying to manage volume. Robinhood as well. I mean, these are still startups. Honestly, they're not. They haven't been around 50 years to be able to anticipate really high spikes in volume. So yeah, they're going to have hiccups. Yeah.
Just wanted to add to Cheryl, great headline. I was going to contribute to that as well. So yeah, the warning from the authorities, which Cheryl alluded to, so China Banking Association, there was also the National Internet Financial Association of China, and another one, basically saying that we have to strengthen their social responsibilities, and they've said that virtual currency should not be used for pricing products and services, underwriting, insurance business. Literally, they've just closed the scope completely, which means there's not much use left for crypto. Now, in market terminology, a bear market is 20%. I mean, since April, the Bitcoin has dropped, 30%? So besides because I mean, the crypto room's going on, they're like, oh, it's Elon. And I think it's a way bigger problem. And I think this move is basically paving the way for the digital yuan. But also, I wanted to mention that I think it was February, Janet Yellen in the US said that she felt that cryptos were, number one, unsustainable, but also just very limited in scope. So I think the war is on to slam down the crypto markets and keep it to a sort of like sideline rather than mainstream use.
Yeah, the 3 of the top 4 rooms in Clubhouse right now are the crypto rooms, and the titles are Bitcoin Can't Fight Gravity. Number 2 is Thought This Was Easy, Holding Bitcoin Ain't Easy. And then the third one is Crypto Talk, Dogecoin, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Shiba, Our Predictions. And there's many others in the top 20, but to have 3 of the top 4 rooms all about Bitcoin tells you all you need to know.
And one good news from the Asia room just now that's hosted by Monica. Remember, Ethereum's founder donated Shiba coins to India?
Yeah, Ethereum's founder, Vitalik, just donated a whole bunch of Shiba coins. Yeah.
So apparently they have already cashed out. So that's good news because they can use $80 million on the relief. That's very good.
Yeah.
He also donated 1.5 billion to multiple nonprofits. One of which is the one that I actually work for. So that was great.
Yeah,
but it's good that they cash out before the thing went down.
Yeah, and the headline that Cheryl just shared, and I just retweeted it to the Tech News Around the World Twitter account. The headline is India's largest crypto exchange crashes as investors scramble to exit. So that a lot of the volume is people trying to sell, apparently.
So, Tyler?
Yes.
Today, the Indian government has also said, and this also came up in the same room, talking about the fact that they're also exactly to what Faraz, the point that Faraz was making, and his faux pas, which was actually quite fun, was that India is also setting up a consultative body, which is going to obviously comprise some high-powered individuals who are going to look at crypto. The question really becomes when these kind of consultative organizations or bodies are set up or meet. It really doesn't serve any purpose. It just means that some regulation is coming its way. So all of us are confused. And that is why, probably because of the Bitcoin crash, people are trying to cash out, assuming that there is some sort of regulation coming their way. And
Right.
just to give a little bit of context, WazirX, which is the largest crypto exchange in India, had crashed last week as well, when Dogecoin has hit its highest. At that point in time, the users had complained, and many of them were actually going to the central bank asking for their money to be protected. So the investors aren't doing themselves a favor by actually bringing this into question, because crypto is largely unregulated and it's always been like that.
Right. Monica, let me ask you. You just shared an article 27 minutes ago that I'm retweeting now about WhatsApp in India. Can you help us understand what's
Yes,
going on
please.
there? Yeah.
That is the best headline ever. It's got no attention because of everything else that's happening in India. But now this goes back to April or March, when the Ministry of Information and Technology and Electronics had released a guideline for all social media platforms to comply. And they were especially indignant at WhatsApp releasing its privacy policy, whereby they would deactivate users' accounts who did not accept the associated terms of agreement associated with sharing data, which went into effect on May 15th. So MeetY, which is the organization's name, which is a central government organization, had shot off a letter to WhatsApp saying that WhatsApp is taking a favorable position in Europe, and it is treating India differently. India being one of its largest countries, in fact, the largest user base for them, they should be considering India to be its primary market and should be listening to them, which is users' accounts should not be deactivated. WhatsApp had clarified, but they still went ahead with their deadline. Right now, users' data is being shared. If they accept, users' data is not being deleted, which means users' accounts are protected even if they don't accept this. But WhatsApp has not responded to the government, which obviously is not something that MeetY has liked, and they've shot off a letter. Indignant letter normally means that they would have expected a WhatsApp representative to be in their office at any point in time.
So
And that didn't happen.
Can you? Yeah. So basically, it's because India doesn't like WhatsApp changing its privacy policies.
Yes, and forcing you the privacy policy down the users' throats, saying that if they don't accept the privacy policy, their accounts will be deleted without prior notice.
But what can India do about that? I mean, WhatsApp's going to say, yeah, well, if you don't like it, too bad. And India's going to say, well, you can't do that. And if you try to enforce that, if you start, is India going to tell WhatsApp, hey, WhatsApp, if you start banning people, as you say you will, then we're going to ban you? India's going to ban WhatsApp if WhatsApp starts banning Indians? Is that what's going to happen?
So, Tyler, I wouldn't say that they would do that, but they'll definitely use an iron force of hand in order to force this to a reasonable conclusion, which would mean you comply to what we want or else, which is exactly what other countries are doing. And that is what the letter also states.
Germany's basically saying that. They're saying they went even a little stronger, I think, which they said, oh, WhatsApp, if you want to have that policy, you need to leave Germany now. Something like that.
But just a quick interruption at my end. Monica, don't you think, and this is a very stupid analogy to give, that's like the United States and China going to war. I mean, we're talking about a significant population of the world against WhatsApp. I mean, I hope that stupid analogy makes sense in some fashion.
But
they'd have to come to some sort of agreement. You can't take WhatsApp out of India. Facebook would have to be out of their mind.
Right.
Absolutely, and that is the entire point. Because I'll tell you, Faraz, that when we were speaking to a government official, they were saying that they expect India with its large population size. That is why they released the number of social media accounts that exist. They expect social media companies to actually have offices and entities based out of India. This is not to offer employment, but this is to offer customer service and redressal, especially because of the power of social media. When there are issues, they don't want to have a 24 or or a 36-hour gap between responses. When somebody needs to be attending or be called into office, they need an official, a redressal grievance officer to be stated within the country and at first call available to the government. Now, this is not unheard of,
It's
and
like
this
an
is exactly
embassy.
what.
It's like embassy. You need a
Yes,
these
yes,
tech companies are becoming so big and so politically powerful that
yes,
they need to have an ambassador
yes.
for WhatsApp on the ground in Delhi.
But I mean, Tyler, look at the numbers that we have in India, and it's unbelievable that Indians used to spend 60 minutes on WhatsApp every day, 400 million users. I mean, the numbers just justify the presence of
Of
WhatsApp and
course,
Facebook
and
combined.
and Froz is exactly right. They're like, there's no way that WhatsApp would give up India, right? Because there's so much opportunity there. But so what exactly is driving WhatsApp to risk this with this new privacy policy? What is it about this new privacy policy that's making WhatsApp even risk this instability? They obviously need this for some very strategic reason. Is it because of they want to unlock and introduce their new Facebook payment currency as part
Payment.
of this? It must be something on that scale where it's worth billions and billions of dollars to them, or they wouldn't risk it, would they?
Tyler, what we know is that WhatsApp Pay in India doesn't use any of the payments data, and it doesn't even
Not
doesn't
yet.
require the customers to agree to this privacy policy. It has absolutely no connection to the WhatsApp Pay side, versus in the US, the Pay. Which is any payment information that the user has and their own location and other preferences would be made available to merchants for better localized and personalized ads, which is not the case in India because that's not how WhatsApp will function. So I'm not really sure
Yeah.
what is going on in WhatsApp mind, but I'm pretty clear that that Novi, which is the Facebook financial entity that was supposed to be the reformed Libra initiative, I don't think that they would be targeting any of the emerging countries given the kind of work that they want to do on open currencies and open
Okay,
platforms.
hang on, Michelle.
Monica, but the thing is, sorry,
Michelle's got her
Monica,
hand
but
raised here. Kieran, one second. Michelle's, thank God you're here. And welcome, Jordan, as well. Have you been listening to as usual, we're trying to figure out what's going on with WhatsApp in India. And India and WhatsApp are in a little bit of a standoff where WhatsApp is changing their privacy policy, and India is very unhappy about that and writing very stern letters saying, you need to rethink this, or there could be severe consequences. Why is WhatsApp doing this? Do you happen to know?
So this is related to the May 15 update, right? On the new the terms and
Right.
condition policy updates. Okay. And again, I can't just say that in a sort of deterministic way that this is what's happening in India, but what we faced in January when we were going to go live with this on the 8th of Feb is that there was a misunderstanding as to what this update meant. And in a nutshell, the reason why all users have to accept it is because this is an update, the terms and condition has changed. So because we can have two standalone terms and condition, in order to use a product, you need to accept the terms and condition. So that's why all users have to acknowledge it, because that's the actual WhatsApp terms and condition. The part that has changed there is that business messaging update. What this means is that as soon as you start having a conversation with a business that will be initiated by you, there's been a few misunderstanding as to WhatsApp will read your conversation on a peer-to-peer basis, or you will see ads that are sort of more non-solicited ads or opt-in ads. So that would be you initiate the conversation, and within that conversation, those companies or advertisers you've been interacting with will have visibility of the data within that conversation and can potentially leverage that for other use cases like CRM and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what the update is about, actually.
Okay.
But there's been a lot of misunderstanding and information as to what that meant. So I just think maybe users didn't really have the time to read through it and maybe try and unpack it. So the challenge in South Africa, Germany is why are you forcing all users to accept that without giving them option. But it's because there's only one term and conditions for the entire product.
It's going to be interesting to see how India handles this.
So Tyler, I wonder whether it's Facebook, one of the biggest investor when Ambani, Reliance went around raising funds. I think Facebook was one of the biggest investor, right? I think they invested up 5 billion into, and I'm sure that this probably plays into that because probably Reliance Ambani is playing this in order to get that kind of a deep integration with Facebook, the WhatsApp that's needed in terms of in order to go into the payment.
Yeah,
And e-commerce,
that's
right?
why I'm saying there must be. Well, Michelle, as usual, clearly outlined that there is invaluable data involved, which does translate into commerce. They wouldn't risk this,
Because
They would.
because Ambani's got many cases already on because he's already have the dominance, right? Such a monopoly on so many sectors. I just think that he's using this as a I think this is the I just think there is something going on around that.
Yeah. So I just want to change gears, but we'll circle back to this because this is certainly developing. So let's see where it stands tomorrow and the next day. So on just touching back on crypto for one more second, Jordan shared a really good article from The Verge that, as I had hinted, that Coinbase has gone down for an hour. And then he shared another really, really interesting one. Spotify enters the virtual concert business, which you've heard me say they would do now for about a month or so, Cal. Spotify enters the virtual concert business, starts selling $15 tickets to events. Yes, you need a Spotify account. How many times, by the way, Cheryl, how many times have I said Spotify is about to do this? Where they're going to allow the artists on their app to start doing virtual concerts on their apps.
I cannot remember. Countless.
Yeah, kind of every day for about a month now. So,
yeah.
So
Here
it is. I'm trying to retweet it. The Twitter is acting very strange today and not letting me retweet Jordan's tweet. Mm-hmm. On the 10th try, it worked. Okay, there it is. So let me just share some of the key points here. Spotify is entering the virtual concert business, just as in-person concerts are becoming more of a possibility. The company announced today that people can now buy tickets to 5 different concert streams, which will air throughout May and June. Initial artists include the Black Keys, Jack Antonoff of the Bleachers, and Leon Bridges. The streams are all pre-recorded but can only be viewed at a given time through the web browser. The shows aren't available on demand, and they aren't accessible through the Spotify app. Tickets cost $15. Spotify previously participated in the concert ecosystem. Now, and there's images of how this works on the blog post that I just shared from the Tech News Around the World Twitter account. What I'm further predicting is Spotify did buy one of the Clubhouse clones, which was called Locker Room, and which it's identical to Clubhouse basically. And my prediction is they will have their artists and fans, all of the Spotify, it will be embedded into the Spotify desktop app and the mobile app, which they are no doubt doing as we speak. And when you open the Spotify apps on either mobile or desktop, that you will be able to go into chat rooms with around every artist. So the U2 fans will have a YouTube room, and maybe every album will have their own room for the really big artists, and even songs will have their own rooms for really, really big artists. And fans will be talking and blah, blah, blah. And once in a while, artists might even make cameo appearances and do concerts for their fans, like musicians do in Clubhouse. And then they could even artists will be able to schedule Clubhouse-like concerts for their fans in their rooms and monetize those. And that will be a fantastic way for artists to make a lot more money on the Spotify platform. But it gets more, because they could also sell tickets to real physical upcoming events, and they could sell NFTs, as eBay just announced they're going to do. I imagine Spotify will do the same, so that the artists could sell virtual goods and physical goods, their own t-shirts and stuff, with Shopify, going back to the beginning of the hour. And so artists on Spotify are going to have tremendous new opportunities to monetize on Spotify. And that's why I think Spotify has an incredibly bright future. As this article is now alluding, that they're now entering the virtual.
Tyler, you know the kind of stuff that Will.i.am tried to do,
yeah,
which I'm sure you understand.
Yeah, of
right?
course.
I don't think he had the platform for it before,
Exactly.
right? And the mechanisms, because I applauded him for doing
Totally.
what he's been doing, and I hope he's not on this platform listening to me because I really like him.
Yeah.
But
No, Will's a
yeah,
super smart business dude, and
but he couldn't make the commerce work, right?
right.
And I
Well, I
know because
mean,
he approached us at Best Buy way back, but
he
he couldn't. But this platform didn't exist for him.
correct.
The mechanisms that are coming through with Shopify and Spotify now, and they just didn't exist for the guy.
Correct. It's all about the plumbing and the pipes, and it takes time for the neurons to connect and make the synapses to engage and build this brain, and then it's once it starts working, it's and the synapses start firing. Here it comes. The financial pipes are connecting, the e-commerce pipes are connecting, the NFT pipe is a brand new connection into this whole ecosystem. So here it comes. It's going to be very exciting.
I know
Shirley?
you're going to switch.
Maybe
I just want to ask really quickly to Cal, how long ago was that? Because you know that Beyonce has launched, well, she did it a long time ago, Ivy Park on Shopify. It's one of the best performing shops. So I was curious to know how long ago Will.i.am tried.
Will.i.am's been trying this for like
15 years or so.
Yeah, I mean he's been going at this. If you look at it, there's a lot of different
He's
issues as to
way
the
ahead of his
execution
time.
there.
Way
Yeah.
ahead of his time. He was going around when they got signed to Interscope under Jimmy Iovine, and he was just a force of nature. I mean, he just was one of these folks that was like, well, tech should do this, and let's do this. I mean, he sees way far ahead over the horizon, and he's kind of like, a visionary of like, look, these pipes need to connect. Let's do this. Let's go, chip chop. Come on, let's do this. And all the geeks are like, yeah, well, regulations. It takes time. We got to do. And now here it
Tyler,
comes. Yeah.
Tyler, maybe Clubhouse should bring some of the feature of Spotify on its platform because
it gets It gets tricky because there's a lot of rights holders, and Spotify is basically in the prime position in this regard with musical artists, because musical artists oftentimes don't own the rights to their own works. In fact, they very rarely do. They gave them away to the record labels in exchange for a loan to produce their albums and go on tour. And so Spotify had to secure the rights to all of the content, all of the songs, the back catalogs of all of these artists by giving away equity in Spotify, actually. And so the record labels are part owners and partners in Spotify, and they are invested in Spotify's success to a degree. But they also collect a kind of a royalty from Spotify for all of the streaming. The artists don't really get anything, but the rights holders do, which are the labels. But if it would be not trivial for anyone, including Clubhouse, to try and secure all of that necessary stuff. And that's why you don't see MC Hammer performing in Clubhouse, even though he's here all the time. And it's why you don't see 21 Savage and the other musical artists that you've seen here essentially limiting their participation to talking and not performing. They can, but it gets tricky and gets legal very quickly. So,
but maybe we could look at the new artist, because I follow this artist that I met her at Burning Man, and she has a daily Clubhouse, and people send her money, and she says, if 100 of you listen to my song on Spotify, I can buy a coffee.
Yes.
So,
but Cam, why would it, just to take it one bit? I know we all love Clubhouse, but if you're an artist, if you have the same audio features and you have the same, why wouldn't you just go to Spotify? Like, why would you come here?
Well, let me make that case even stronger for you, Cal, because as a new artist, you now can have a Spotify artist account, even if you don't have a record deal, and you can post your songs there and try and promote it and get downloads. And I think new artists will do that in the same way they did with MySpace back in the day, which that's what I was doing when I was an unsigned artist before I got to deal with Capitol when MySpace was happening, is I was trying to promote my band on MySpace. And unsigned artists will certainly do that on Spotify and be doing virtual concerts for their fans on their Spotify accounts to drive more visibility, to get people to, because Spotify has also the additional mechanism of your catalog as an unsigned artist for fans to stream it, and you can get paid on those streams, and you will get paid on those streams because you do own that content, because you haven't done a record deal yet where you've given away the rights to your digital streaming rights. So unsigned artists are more likely to participate in the Spotify ecosystem because Spotify is going to be hosting all of their recordings that people can play, that I get paid for when they play them. And in addition to my real concert tickets and my other, virtual goods and my physical goods, my my T-shirts and whatever, Spotify is just in a fantastic position because Spotify is going to watch the data of those unsigned artists very closely. And here's why. This gets absolutely magical. This is one of the coolest things happening in tech in 2021 because unsigned artists on Spotify now will be able to. Spotify is a data company first and foremost. Actually, that's what they really are. And when they see the data of an unsigned artist gaining traction, they can then say, hey, we're watching your data. You're gaining traction. That's great. You're gaining influence. How about we give you a loan? But unlike a record label that would give you a loan and take your music streaming rights and all of your music rights, we're not going to do that. We're just going to give you a loan because we can see based on your data how fast you'll be able to earn it back. We're going to give you, $50,000 to go produce more content, more music, more videos, and we will keep the money that you're making from your streams until you pay back the loan. And by the way, don't worry, we'll make sure you get enough streams because we control the visibility of the artists in our ecosystem. We're the distribution network. We're going to push your songs to everybody, and you're going to get your streams are going to be everywhere, and you're going to get be able to pay back your loan very quickly, and we can insure it. So it's a zero risk loan for us, and it's essentially a zero risk loan for you because you know that we're not going to let the loan fail because it's our own damn platform. Or you can sign with a label who doesn't really control the distribution, who is going to take all of your rights, and good luck with that. And that's why the labels are fucked, and that's why Spotify. And that's why Spotify's in the mega power position, very similar to what just happened yesterday with Amazon buying MGM Studios. The platforms are the power players now. It used to be the studios, the MGM Studios, Lionsgate Studio, all of these Hollywood studios were the financiers, they were the content engines that owned the content, and they would license the content to the TV station or the movie theater, and they would get their commission, and then all the money would come back to the studio, and they would produce more content. The record labels did the same thing. The record labels owned the content. They would send it out on CDs. They'd collect all the money. They'd give the artist a little bit, just to keep them going. But that whole game is changing in a very fundamental way. And guess who gets left out? The record labels get left out, just like Netflix, Spotify as the platform collects the money from the consumer. The consumer now is paying the platform, Spotify or Netflix or Disney Plus, and circumventing the studio. It's who you got to follow the money. Where's the consumer's dollars going? It's going right to the platform, to Spotify. They hold the money. They call the shots. They are the boss. They have the power. And the labels don't. Guess where the money isn't going? It's not going to the labels anymore. It's now going to Spotify and to Netflix, and it's not going to the movie studios anymore. It's going to Netflix and Hulu or whatever the new platforms are.
But that's what I'm saying. I'm sorry.
The reason why I just wanted to add to Cal's question, to answer Cal's question, the reason why the small artists would still come to Clubhouse in that regard is that, for example, yesterday I listened to a Clubhouse room where the chief marketing officer of CVS came on, and it was his first time on Clubhouse. And before he spoke, as a friendly gesture to him, coming onto the platform, the moderator of the room had a violinist who just played a 30-second 1 minute little intro before it started, and that's like a little gig.
Hey, Tyler?
Yeah, actually, what I was saying is Spotify is doing virtual concert. Why not Clubhouse do the virtual concert?
Yeah, they will. But the artist who comes to Clubhouse, they'll come here and they'll go on Twitter and they'll go on Instagram, but they're going to be trying to drive that attention somewhere. And the question is, where will they be trying to funnel that attention? If they're going to funnel it to wherever they can monetize that traffic, and Spotify is going to help them monetize that traffic perhaps better than anywhere. Perhaps.
I was just going to say to what you said, Tyler, that the other part of Spotify that's so powerful is their discovery mechanism.
Correct.
That will help boost visibility for those artists a lot faster than, a single room on Clubhouse. So they can become a lot bigger, and with digital events, that just grants them, like, their fans access to their concerts from any place, anytime. So it's just so much more powerful if they go to Spotify.
Yeah, but they're also hosting their catalog for them for fans to download or play or whatever. Yes, go ahead.
There was a really interesting project. I haven't followed it. It's called Paper Chain, and what they were doing was they were going to help both we're going to help the record labels be able to God, I forget what it is when it's like receivables financing because it's so expensive at the banks. It's like 34%, or was a year and a half ago, for doing this, and the record label would just give them their key, and then they would go and create these markets in the DeFi where they would securitize, make it as receivables using some of the stable coins, etc., and be able to give these guys the money 85 cents on the dollar, like the next day, instead of waiting for the record labels T plus 90 and the artist T plus 180 for getting their money, because they know exactly from both Amazon and Spotify what they made each day and which artists. So then the record label could either decide they wanted to redeploy it for advertising for the songs that were doing well, or start to give the artist back money in advance of 180 days. So I think that this whole development of whether it was NFTs or all these kinds of ways in which to monetize more appropriately on a more current schedule record songs that are streaming is a great move.
Yeah, there's several parts in the chain where artists get paid in the traditional game, on the publishing side as well, and there's a company out of Sweden that does that as well and helps them monetize that much better. And it's just removing all of the crazy mess of the record industry and helping. But and the whole game's about to change now. And thank you for sharing this headline, Jordan, about Spotify getting into the virtual concerts. That's the first step in many interesting steps to come, no doubt. Anyone else on stage burning with a headline they want to share?
Can I just...
Yeah.
Oh, 1 second. Let's go to Gareth, because Gareth is in the industry and had his hand raised. What did you want to share,
Yeah,
Gareth?
hi. I just wanted to... Remember we had the big kind of to-do about the emotional detection stuff and the patent that Spotify... I can't remember if it was this room or the morning room, but everyone kind of freaked out. One of the things I think interesting, there's an interesting thing in the industry at the moment about... Tyler, you're right about what would have traditionally been independent artists, and the opportunity that is being presented for them. But I think there's a lot of talk at the moment about whether that concept is even relevant anymore, because so many artists are now doing so much themselves, or got access to so many tools that are relevant for them. Music distribution at this point is nearly free in many places. If you want, you can distribute your music for virtually nothing. And I think that, plus all of the opportunities that we're talking about, means there's a lot of artists. And I think someone mentioned the search and discovery side of things. I think one of the things that's coming our way is actually, with all this influx of stuff, unless there's some real advances in more interesting or cleverer ways to use technology to help us find music, that actually finding any of this stuff is going to be some of the hardest things around, whether it's a live stream concert or music, wherever, because as it stands, Spotify is still locked into a display on your phone or a display on a desktop for delivering you most of your music. So I think the interesting counterpoint to that argument, where everyone got upset around the emotional detection and other stuff, is where there were some quite extreme applications for that. Some of the more less extreme potentially are just things about how do you make the algorithms that pick music and help you find music that much more effective, which benefits you and benefits musicians, because actually musicians getting found and the pie getting cut smaller and smaller will be the challenge, regardless of whether we cut where the monies flow better, which is inevitably going to happen. But we do get this problem then of like literally how discoverability.
Yep. Thanks.
And that's going to get tougher.
Yeah. Thanks for the extra context there. I think I want to turn it to Mabwana, who had some there's two really positive stories, some good tech happenings out of Africa. Mabwana, now a good time for that?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah,
sorry,
you sound great now. Yeah.
Thank you. I actually had three stories, but I'll try and go through them all quickly. In Africa FinTech, the first one, I think it's really one that's not really well reported, is Ethiotel, which is the state-owned mobile operator in Ethiopia, just launched their Ethio Burr, or so Toytella Burr. It's a mobile money service, and it got over 1 million users in its first week. And just for context, Ethiopia is one of the final frontiers of Africa FinTech. 80 million people, really closed economy, super, super closed economy. No foreign banks. And the thing that's interesting here is that MTN Money, which is one of the bigger operators, and Safaricom, which is famous from Kenya, were waiting for a license to open in Ethiopia for the last 2 or 3 years, and they essentially got played. Right? They were kind of strung along, and then in the wings, the state-owned telco launched the mobile money operation. And so, it's kind of they got a nice head start. I'm sure they got those lessons from China. But yeah, so in the next couple of months, we should expect Safaricom and MTN to also get granted and launch. But Ethiotel will have a head start, and I think it'll begin the big race for the Ethiopian fintech scene, which is going to be very fascinating to watch. So I think that's a really good story. And then the other two stories, one is Sequoia's first Egypt investment in a I think it's called Teldor or something like that. It's a neobank. Telda. Sorry, thank you. It's a neobank. The founder, I think, is ex-founder of Swivel, which is a ride-sharing app that's done well in Egypt and extended into the rest of Africa as well. And so that's really exciting to have Sequoia's first technically Africa deal, or I think even MENA deal, if I remember correctly as well. So again, fintech in Ethiopia is heating up. And the final story is, I think, was already covered before. Maybe Michelle or someone else had mentioned the preview of it, but Alibaba is teaming up with Vodacom in South Africa to launch their VodaPay, which is essentially a super app of fintech plus e-commerce. And of course, Vodacom runs M-Pesa in Tanzania, and they're kind of twinned a little bit with Safaricom in Kenya. And so South Africa is also heating up within the fintech sort of super app wars. So I would say three pretty big fintech developments in Africa, and it shows you how hot the payment space is, from pretty developed markets like South Africa, where it's quite competitive, to Egypt, but also to virgin greenfield opportunities in Ethiopia, which is literally one that I'm fascinated to watch.
Yeah, super cool. That's especially the Sequoia news. That's people who don't know, Sequoia is one of the top VC firms globally, and as such, when they make a move, all the other investors take notice. And so they historically are one of the first to go into new territories. And so the fact that they've now done a deal, an investment in Africa, is incredibly good news, because that means there's likely going to be 10 or 20 more other investors sniffing around in the weeks and months to come. So it's fantastic news.
Tyler, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that the way I typically divide Africa, obviously it's a huge continent with lots of countries. I think Egypt is going to have a force of its own, kind of going forward. You're starting to see, Nigerian investors also look at Egypt. I personally focus on, Eastern Africa to Southern Africa. Don't look at Egypt at all. I mean, obviously it's very different from the Anglo-speaking side of Africa. But yeah, I think Egypt's going to really take off as a market in its own right in Africa.
Yeah, I'm looking at Egypt specifically, and I invested in the largest payment platform app called Fauri, that has now crossed over $1 billion and on the Cairo Stock Exchange. And indeed, the Egyptian fintech space is really starting to heat up. So that's really good news. And I wanted to add a tiny bit of news on what Mbuena just said. There's a digital bank, a neo-digital bank in South Africa called Time Bank that is also entering the Philippines. So I reported, I think a few days ago, the Series B of the first digital bank in the Philippines called Tonic Bank. And now we're seeing a successful South African digital bank entering the Philippines. So that's interesting, this south to south investment taking place between Africa and Southeast Asia.
Just wanted to add on the Africa space as well. So Amazon announced that they were going into Ghana, even though we talked about South Africa previously. And interestingly enough, there's a company, Aero Africa. They're launching an air freight digital platform to target African logistics. So this space is really heating up. I just wanted to add that as well.
And I want to thank you for both of those additional points. Our friend James from MasterCard, he just sent me a DM. And speaking of fintech, a quick little thing that about how to make improvements to Clubhouse. I just tweeted it from the Tech News Around the World Twitter account. There's a very short little URL you could type into your browser as well, which is bit.ly /ch users, like Clubhouse users. So bit.ly /ch users. I just tweeted it from Tech News Around the World Twitter, which is TNATW. And it's just, it's got like, you can vote up basically what are the favorite features that you would like to see brought to Clubhouse. For example, the ability to control notifications, have a little more control of the notifications that you get, or allowing speakers on stage to raise their hands so that they can speak rather than flashing their mics like I often ask them to do, or maybe more hyperlinks in the bios, because in your bio you can't, your links aren't clickable. Or would you like a LinkedIn button to your LinkedIn account and things like that? So you can just very simply click on these boxes. It takes 2 seconds, and help our friend James from MasterCard about future Clubhouse product development. You can see it again from the Tech News Around the World Twitter account. And I'll just do a very fast room refresh of Tech News Around the World for those who might be joining for the first time. Everybody on stage, I'm just double checking. Norm might be the new kid in town on stage at the moment. Everybody else, yep. Everybody else has been here many, many times over many weeks now, and we do this twice a day. You can see the schedule by clicking on the title of the room. Please do follow the room, and do notice the upcoming events that we have for the Tech News Club, which include tomorrow there's the blockchain news with Ben and Donna and Rajwinder, and then a really fun one about, are aliens real? Obviously, but what say you about these aliens, with Michael and Victoria, about this fantastic, crazy 60 minutes expose around the Navy and all of the footage and accounts, first eyewitness accounts that they have of all of the people in the Navy, officials saying that they see these things daily over many years now, and many others. So hope you do follow the club, because there's lots of fantastic rooms that you can see and scroll through on the club page. And you're most welcome, if you're a newbie, to jump up on stage and join the gang up here. Raise your hand, share an article from your part of the world, geographically or professionally. That's the engine that makes this train run, essentially. And we're up here on stage with various degrees of expertises and backgrounds to help analyze the news. That's essentially what it's all about. And moving forward,
I think that blockchain room is today.
Oh, it might be.
Tyler,
Sequoia.
I was actually just jumping on
it's
Twitter
today
to
at
DM you.
1:30,
So
right, Ben?
Okay.
Yeah, well, it could be 1 or it could be 1:30. It's currently scheduled for 1:30, but we've got half an hour after that. We've got the aliens talk. So, what do you think, Tyler? Do we do it at 1 or 1:30?
1.
1. Okay, I'll move
We're
it to 1.
there.
We'll do it.
Hey, Tyler.
Yeah.
Tyler.
Yeah.
I'm excited to tell you about the new F-150 that's a
yes,
mobile outlet for a blender.
EV, right?
Yeah, it's for a blender, though. That's the whole point of the truck, is you can run your blender off of it.
Right. So they call that camping mode in Tesla. land, right?
Glamping, I guess, right?
Yes, glamping. Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
And yeah, so
Did you
this
see the video
so
for
good.
it?
I have not, but let's talk about this. So basically, I guess we give some credit to Tesla with their Cybertruck for putting a fire under the ass of Ford to make an EV Ford.
Before?
Uh,
Yes. Yeah. Well, the one if you watch the video, it's actually hilarious because it ends with the guy plugging in a blender in the back of his pickup and blendering a smoothie to show that it has electrical capabilities. So you could actually use it to blend smoothies and also run power tools.
yes.
Oh, that's nice. That's very nice.
That's very nice.
It's like the Vitamix.
Yeah.
I
So,
can have hot
so
water
you
on the
buy.
go.
It makes a lot of sense to spend $45,000 on an EV truck just so you can use your blender in the field.
I've
It's very
got
important.
the article here. I'm tweeting it from the Tech News Around the World Twitter account at TNATW, so you can watch the video. And I know our friend Greg Duffy was very excited about this F-150. I'm not sure if he was waiting for the electric one or not. I imagine he is.
350 actually.
Does he have a Vitamix? That's important.
Yeah, I think he was after the 350,
350.
the big boys version. Yeah, yeah.
Does it have little slots like the kitchen of the future where you could, sort of like stick it in without having to have the base?
I think Greg did his own conversion.
Yeah, but there's an interesting point in all of this, which is your car, if it has a large enough battery, as these do, even if your home isn't electric or you don't have batteries to power your house, if your car is fully charged and your city goes out of power, as is happening more often in California, and it happened in Texas due to the frost going down all the way down into Texas a month or so ago. You will be able to run power off of your car essentially when the power goes out. So you can think of it as camping mode, but you could also think of it as, saving your ass when your city runs out of power.
What is the maximum power capacity on full charge?
In terms of kilowatt hours or in terms of range?
Yeah, kilowatt hour.
They're usually about 70 or something, yeah.
Huh? So little?
Florida and Texas already living out of their cars?
Yeah, good point. I mean, well, here's exactly.
And that's a lot of energy in house terms, by the way. Like if you've got, so my car's like 80 kilowatt hours and the house uses maybe 20 a day and it uses a lot. So it's actually quite a lot in terms of, I mean, with Teslas, you can't go vehicle to grid. You can't do that. Can't go backwards at the moment. But it is actually that's a big reserve. Bear in mind a Tesla Powerwall, which are quite expensive, is 13 kilowatt hours. So if you've got a car that's, getting on for 100 or some of them are 100, then that's a big battery.
I know. I can do camping with that. I can bring my oven to bake.
You could do a lot more than that. You could power the whole campground. You could power all the campers. You could do like 50 different campers. Yeah.
You can take your lime green Johnny Ive laptop with you.
That's
until the campers start wising up and bringing sunbeds and electric ovens and all that shit, and then it gets harder.
You can also one second, Shirley. You could also power your Skylink, or what does he call it? Starlink. And your
the Bitcoin miner.
56-inch, TV where you're doing your Zoom calls and your clubhousing and your mobile office. Because this gets back to the van life scenario.
And then you can't get home, right? Because your battery's flat.
Well, until the sun comes out, yeah. But
for a week.
Yeah, I mean, I'm honestly, this is one of my pet projects. Once COVID is over, and by the way, I'm hinting again, it's unofficial. You didn't hear it from me, but Tesla is very likely designing. I happen to have the rumors are that Tesla is they have the Cybertruck. They understand that van life is this huge new movement that boomed during COVID, by the way. You just go on YouTube and type in van life and you'll see what I mean. Because people didn't want to be stuck in their houses and they converted their, Mercedes Sprinter vans and Dodge Sprinter vans and ProMaster vans into livable, drivable homes with showers and, heated water and all of it, kitchens and bedrooms, and they're gorgeous. I mean, it'll blow your mind to see how beautifully people are designing these things now. And Tesla understands, and Elon did softly confirm they understand the opportunity to do it in a very big solar way, and people are putting solar panels on the roofs and batteries underneath, lithium batteries underneath. The Tesla's advantage is they've already got the lithium batteries built into the damn car. You don't have to add them like everyone's doing in these YouTube videos. And they have a solar power company with solar tiles that they could cover the whole damn vehicle and make cascading canopies that kind of butterfly out on top. And you could charge up the whole damn car without even needing a power grid. And then it becomes, if you have a Skylink or Starlink on top of the thing, and you put a 56-inch flat screen inside that thing, and you got a mobile office, you're good to go. Yeah.
Yay!
But
And
they're not
Cheryl,
cannonball proof. That's the problem.
Oh
If you get
yeah.
attacked by cannonballs, you're in trouble.
Yeah. Zombie
Tyler,
apocalypse proof. Yeah. So Shirley was next.
Cheryl,
Go ahead.
yeah, it's not a headline. It's just that James asked me to thank you. I was just trying to sneak that in. But in terms of gossip and rumors as well, so back to the Africa thing as well. Apparently, Kanye West is considering, it's not confirmed, but opening a factory in Ghana for his Yeezys. So that's unofficial, but that's kind of what's buzzing around on the Africa stage.
Yeah, I've heard there's been other rumors about Kanye in Africa as well. It's quite interesting. And to me, when I think of Kanye as an artist, he's also a real. He's usually a year or two or three ahead of a lot of other folks, and so whatever Kanye does, just keep in mind, like he's usually the first mover on some really interesting things, and so it'll be something to keep note of. Thank you for that, Shirley. Somebody else was chiming in.
no, for Cheryl's question about the kilowatt hours, the battery, it's
Yeah.
112 kilowatt hours for that F-150 Lightning.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you could power your house for about a little less than a week. That's my
No, I
point.
want to go on a camping trip.
Yeah. Well, it's way overkill for camping in terms of power. Yeah, but that's why I say it. These things are there's a really interesting use case that people don't think about of having these EVs. Ben, there was an announcement that the Tesla Model 3s that now are going to, in the latest update, will be able to do this camping mode as well. It's not just limited to Cybertrucks anymore, apparently. So that's it'll be interesting to see. And eventually, with something Ben mentioned, which is car to grid, where in the future your car and the charge in the car might be, if you have excess battery in your car, might be able to sell that energy back to the grid, actually, and that's where things get really interesting. Okay, so more headlines. A lot of people are sharing on the Twitter account by tagging Tech News Around the World, which is fantastic.
And
yep.
Quick one. It's a question. We discussed Google, but did we discuss Google Chrome?
No, what's
itself?
up?
Okay, so Google Chrome itself is going to be allowing people to see the open carts they've left across multiple sites. Yeah, so I thought that might have come up, but if it hasn't, so you can do your surfing, etc. It will retain all of this data. Apparently, Apple and Microsoft are competing on this as well. So I thought that's really interesting because they're literally bringing the shop to you.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting one. And by the way, Mark Andreessen says himself one of his biggest regrets when he was designing the he created the web browser as we use it today, like Chrome. He got distracted in other opportunities, and he regrets not building in the payment fintech layer into the web browser when he was inventing it. And that would have been true. That could have been an incredible. The world would be very different as we know it today had he done that, because he's one of the few folks on the planet with the brain power to pull something like that off. Anyway, Google also, speaking of cars, is working on a new digital car key for Android 12. So your new Android, if you have an Android phone, although maybe not many people in this room do for obvious reasons, but if you have Android 12, you might be able to start unlocking your car with what they call Fast Pair, for easy Bluetooth pairing between your phone and your car. And there's all kinds of interesting things that Google announced yesterday when we were joined in this room. But for those who didn't join us, there's got all kinds of updates to the design of Android 12 and all of the privacy updates. And now here's where this gets interesting. The headlines yesterday during the event were kind of split between Google's updates for Android and these new Apple rumors that they're coming out with the new laptops, the MacBook Pros, the new Mac Pro, the new Mac Mini, the new everything. And so Apple's PR team very cleverly drowned out Amazon to a degree on their big annual event. And then today, I have to say how genius Apple's PR team is. So all of the Apple had their event back on April 20th, so exactly a month ago. All of the devices they announced, the new iMacs and the new iPad Pros, were just received today by reviewers. So the tech press is now very busy reviewing all of these iPad Pros and the new iMacs with the M1 processors. So Apple simultaneously yesterday and today, when Google was trying to make all of these announcements yesterday and today about all of their new flagship features, Apple also cleverly leaked a bunch of future-looking news yesterday and drowned out Google yesterday, and then all of the reviewers got all of their new devices today, also drowning out Google today. It's just brutal how how brilliantly timed it was that the reviewers all received their new Apple products today, and they're filling the tech news funnels with all of their reviews, which is drowning out all the news that came out of the Google event yesterday. It's the art of war with tech PR between Apple and Google. But the reviews on the new iPad Pro with the new M1 processor people are just losing their minds over how beautiful the new mini LED display is and how fast this thing is, because it's essentially faster than a $5,000 desktop computer from a year ago inside of an iPad. And it'll be amazing to see when that ever gets into an iPhone, which is probably a year away. But they're also making huge updates to all of the new 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook Pros and the new, even bigger iMac, which I know Michael's waiting for. Somebody was trying to jump in.
I'm not sure if Victoria may want to chime in on this. iPhone notifications are now allowed in Oculus headsets, apparently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just the new updates.
I actually said that to the Tech News Around the World.
Perfect.
Twitter, just a couple of days ago. But yeah, and it's not the only new update. Well, V29 isn't out yet, but they just announced what it's going to have in it. And yes, that's going to be one of them. But the other thing that I think is, for me personally, the most exciting is a live overlay. So basically, you can wirelessly record yourself in pseudo mixed reality, where you take your iPhone, you set it up as your camera, and then directly through the Oculus, you could superimpose yourself with no green screen necessary on top of the gaming footage, the feed, what you're looking at. So even though it's not really like true mixed reality in that it's not calibrated in 3D space and there's no occlusion, et cetera, for the workflow and it being really simple to set up and quick to stream, I think it's really, really cool for content creators.
Yeah, super cool. I tweeted out the new EV Ford, which, by the way, looks super cool, and it's got the video there. Here's a crazy headline from Bloomberg. Tech companies that made Black Lives Matter pledges have fewer Black employees. But the industry's financial commitments, totaling $4.6 billion, could have an impact. I guess that goes without saying. But after the murder of George Floyd last year, prompted widespread protest, dozens of companies released public pledges to promote racial justice. This journalist is just being an asshole. That's an intentional tongue twister right there. Let me try that again. After the George Floyd last year prompted widespread protest, dozens of companies released public pledges to promote racial justice. However, their support of the Black community wasn't reflected in the demographics of their workforces. A new study of diversity in the technology industry found companies that made statements of solidarity had 20% fewer Black employees on average than those that didn't. The finding highlights a gap between what companies say on social media and what they do in their workplace, said Stephanie Lampkin, the founder and chief executive officer of Blendor, which conducted the study set to be published on Monday. what a very interesting study that is. But we'll just take it at face value. And I shared that so people can do a deep dive on that if they want to. Another kind of research and report just came out, this one being reported from NPR in America. Facebook calls links to depression inconclusive. And then the subheadline is researchers disagree. And we debated this here kind of at length a week or so ago about the really suspicious timing between a report that came out saying that social media use by children has no noticeable negative impact. And on the same day that 44 attorney generals in America, and there's only 50, and 44 out of the 50, and these guys generally don't do things like this, by the way. It was very unprecedented for 44 of them to do anything together. I don't think I've ever seen this in my life. 44 attorney generals of 44 different states of America all wrote a letter to Facebook saying, please do not release Instagram for children. And on the same day, a report out of Oxford came out saying, social media use in very young children has no negative effects. And what an amazing coincidence that those two things happened on the same day, right? Well, as usual, the story continues. This story from NPR, let me read the headline again. Facebook calls links to depression inconclusive, and researchers disagree. The story reads, and again, I'm going to tweet this from the Twitter account for those who want to retweet it or do their own deep dive, which we certainly encourage you to do as curious, well-informed citizens as you are. Representative Kathy McMorris Rogers' biggest fear as a parent isn't gun violence or drunk driving or anything related to the pandemic. That's right, it's social media. And specifically the new sense of brokenness she hears about in children in her district and nationwide. Teen depression and suicide rates have been rising for over a decade, and she sees social apps as a major reason. At a hearing this March, so 2 months ago, on Capitol Hill, the Republican Congresswoman from Washington confronted Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg, Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey, and Google CEO Sundar Pichai with a list of statistics from 2011 to 2018. Rates of teen depression increased by more than 60%. And from 2009 to 2015, emergency room admissions for self-harm to 10 to 14-year-old girls have gone up 300%. It's a battle for their development. It's a battle for their mental health, and untimely, and ultimately a battle for their safety, McMorris Rogers told the tech leaders. But when she pointed out and questioned specifically to Zuckerberg about whether he acknowledged the connection between children's declining mental health and social media platforms, he demurred and said, I don't think that the research is conclusive on that, he says. And the correlation evidence showing that there is a link between social media use and depression is pretty definitive at this point, says Jean Twenge, a psychology professor at San Diego State University. The largest and most well-conducted studies that we have all show that teens who spend more time on social media are more likely to be depressed or unhappy. And the article goes on, as an article like this should. But we just sent that out if you want to read that from NPR. And we certainly could pause to debate that point. I see Dan's raising his hand. Anyone have an interesting take on that?
I was going to talk about. I was going to talk about the Black Lives Matter issue.
Go ahead, Sal.
So if you're culpable and say you're guilty, what's the easiest way to put lipstick on a pig? Is you pledge that you're going to give some money to some loud organization that constantly will then say, oh, you're great, without doing any concrete changes. It's sort of like war criminals talking about human rights. Meanwhile, they love bombing countries. So it's sort of the same playbook. If you go back in history, there was Operation Pushback. Once again, and a lot of people who were involved there, they basically got paid a big payouts from these companies who, in essence, actually did nothing for the black community, but they got personal enrichment from it. And it's sort of that playbook. And then when we're talking about traumatization of children from social media, there's all these studies you can look into. When we moved from an agrarian to an industrial society, one part of it was mass schooling, starting at a young age level. You weren't trained at home in a log cabin. You were going to school from basically first grade onwards or kindergarten. And for most kids, that's a traumatic experience because you're not only socializing, but you're getting bullied, you're berating people, people make fun of you. And there's all these studies that show that, and this is all pre-social media, that the nature of socializing, and social media is just another manifestation of it, is a traumatic experience for most kids growing up. We got bullied before there was Twitter even invented. We got called names. We got heckled. People will point out our differences. There were the cool guys. There were the cheerleaders. There were the football players. There was a quarterback. We had all of this before the advent of social media. It's just another manifestation or just another medium that basically traumatizes a lot of kids when they're growing up.
Okay. Dan, you wanted to jump in?
Yeah, about the Facebook's comments that the research isn't settled. That's a playbook right out of the tobacco and climate denier world.
Yeah.
And I think if we just put it this way, you said, well, the fact that continued use of coal will kill everyone on the planet, the research really isn't settled yet. So, like, would that mean it's still okay to do it? I mean, which is the implication that they're making. But uncertainty is not your friend. And so if there's something dangerous and the research isn't settled, that is not a license to continue doing that thing. And that's certainly true in this case, of course. Anyway, thanks.
Yep. Ben, if he's still on stage, I think he's just left to go start his room. So we're going to end this room shortly. So I want to give everyone a chance to share a headline. If you've got something to share, go ahead, popcorn style. I see Leon and Oliver are raising their hands. Leon always has a very interesting, typically an article that reminds us how America has a lot of improvements left to make. So what is the headline today, Leon?
Just in time, please check your Twitter account. I just sent a tweet with the tech news around the world hashtag. So Taylor, if you look at this, remember the other day we were talking about IBM? Actually, I think 2 days ago, IBM have this 2 nanometer foundry, right? There's
Yes.
potential new chips.
Yeah, global foundry.
Yeah, so Singaporeans and Taiwanese and American team up together to have something called 1 nanometer. I'm reading this right now. Sorry, actually, just Taiwanese and Americans. It's a collaboration between TSMC, MIT, and the National Taiwan University. They just have something which is reported by South China Morning Post about 4 hours ago, so it's really early. Looks like just a research paper with the 23 authors from the 3 organizations. And yeah, this is 1 nanometer. So, who said 2 nanometers is the limit? Now I have to trust IBM. They are not as good as those Taiwanese.
Yeah, that's wild.
So what can I say?
Yeah.
That's wild, right?
It is wild.
The Moore's law can be pushed for another couple of years.
Yeah,
this is
right.
real.
Thank you for that, Leon.
So,
yeah.
What can I say? Full of surprise.
So,
by the way, I also want to plug another one.
But Leon, it says TSMC, MIT, and NTU. NTU is from Singapore.
No, I know I made a mistake. Sorry about that. Somehow I look at the national Nanyang University or something like that. I get confused.
Nanyang Tech University.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I read it too fast.
No problem.
So another thing.
Yep.
Real quick plug-in. Actually, yesterday already there. So, but everyone probably here know about who is Daniel Kahneman is, right? I would say the founder of modern behavioral economics.
Yes.
I'm a big fan of him. His new book, Noise, was published yesterday. I've been reading that one already. It's fantastic, seriously fantastic. It's a perfect timing for us to really look at the mess we are right now. He gave a really good explanation why we're in such a mess today.
Yeah.
From a human behavioral point of view.
Yes.
Fantastic book.
He won the Nobel Prize around, how people make decisions around loss and gain, and which every stock trader should check out, of course. But yeah, he has a new book out called Noise. and his very famous book was called Thinking Fast and Slow. Also worth checking out. But you're right. Thank you for bringing that up. He also just we were talking on Twitter. Did I guess a tweet which was exactly as I was saying in this room yesterday, that humans evolve linearly where technology evolves exponentially, and the gap is widening very quickly. I made that point, and he said the exact same thing verbatim on Twitter just recently, as somebody pointed out. And so I'm now looking to get nominated for a Nobel Prize and hopefully write a book on that topic, as as he won himself. But speaking of really smart people, welcome Hadi to the stage. I noticed in your bio here that you're a Google hardware tech lead. And from my hometown of San Diego, I'm very curious to know what part of town. I'm from Encinitas myself.
Hi. Yeah, Google has been in San Diego since 5 years ago. That was the reason actually I moved to San Diego. And it's near Qualcomm, Mira Mesa.
Sure.
That was one of the reasons actually since there's a tight collaboration between Qualcomm and Google.
Yep.
They founded this office. That was one of the reasons, and now it's growing. I think we're about a few hundred people now.
And are you enjoying Mexican food yet?
Well, we were until pandemic, and the food is not being served now. We used to have the Taco Tuesdays.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm sure you have talked about Google I/O a lot. I just wanted to touch upon the indoor navigation through VR.
Oh, yeah.
And the live map. I just wanted to open it up a little bit.
Let's do that.
Technically.
Yeah.
Well, about 5 years ago, this effort got started at Google that we have a lot of sensors in the cell phone, and how we can leverage that to do indoor navigation. The GPS doesn't always work. It consumes power, and especially in big cities like Manhattan, the city center, or when you go under the tunnel, it doesn't work accurately.
Right.
And
or
also
Tokyo.
inside the buildings.
Yeah.
Or inside the buildings, you don't catch the signal inside the airports or other places. And the question was, can we leverage the sensors inside the phone? And one of the main sensors is like IMU, which has accelerometer and gyroscope. And then there are a lot of other sensors like barometer and magnetometer besides that. The thing is, these IMUs are less than $1, and if you want to really do accurate job in predicting your trajectory when you're walking, you need to spend like $4,000 minimum to be in that accuracy. And the big question was how to still be able to navigate all those noises and errors and still be able to get the accurate results. And then the sensor hub idea came in to leverage all the signals that are coming from like Wi-Fi and other sensors. There are like 13 different signals that are coming in, and I'm glad that the effort after 5-6 years is just showing up in a reliable way.
Very cool.
Especially in the crowded areas like airport, all that you get tons of data from all the customers. Like keep sending the data, and from tracking all that, you can build indoor map of a building without seeing that. You can architecturally know how many rooms are in that building and how many floors, and that now is merged with the camera and can reliably give you the accuracy to find your room that you're about to find inside the building. So I just wanted to open that up.
Yeah,
Thanks for letting me
talk. It's fantastic. So it's like ideally for, like as you said, airports and shopping malls and really, really, really busy cities like Hong Kong or Tokyo, where it's very condensed and multi-levels, etc. Yeah.
Right. So basically, the more data you have from a given location, the more precise you'll be in navigating.
And it works, of course, as you said, in artificial reality through looking through the phone, but it also works in traditional map mode as well. Like it anticipates.
It does as well. Yeah. I mean, it should. Camera makes it more accurate and fun to navigate.
Of course.
But yeah, your sensors are still there, and they can navigate you.
And we were wondering. If you say, show me how, every time I go to an airport or shopping mall, I always want to know where the Starbucks is, and I can just say, hey, where is the Starbucks in this mall? And it'll give me an AR step-by-step guide of exactly how to get there, right?
Correct. Yeah.
and even I guess for visually impaired people, I guess it could do it through audio cues as well. Is that? Do you know if that's correct?
Well, I'm not in the UI. I mean, but I'm sure. I mean, Google, one of the most important pillars is to consider the accessibility. So I'm sure they've thought about it, but I'm not in that team to know how
Right.
exactly they are doing it. Yeah.
That wouldn't be such a big leap technologically, and it seems like that could be an absolute game changer for the accessibility for people with limited vision, right? Like,
Right, and in Google I/O, if you look at it, I mean, there was another, like at the end of it, there was another
yeah,
demo of how visually impaired people could
Hadi,
run.
Hadi,
Actually,
my friend, I wish you had been here 24 hours ago when we were watching it live together, because we did a poll in this room of what, and there was like now where there's 30 people on stage, and we said, okay, what was your favorite, part of the whole, 2 hours? And we watched both the keynote and the developer keynote both, and but the running, guided one that you just referred to won very easily in our poll of most the thing that people found personally most interesting.
awesome.
Yeah.
And Tyler, to my old meta orgasm comment from yesterday,
Yeah.
3D worlds, if we go back again, it's still the internal worlds of these places. That's Apple's work on 3D space, right? It's not going to be VR. I think it's going to be this.
Yeah. Well, more AR, of course.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, Hadi, what were your favorite parts of the Google I/O yesterday?
Few parts. One was the accessibility through the camera. I mean, preventing the oversaturation of the brightness when you're taking photography of like
Right.
dark tone people,
Yep.
and the curly hair.
Yep.
I love that
Yeah,
part.
that
I
curly hair
also
part was
love.
very cool. Yeah.
Right. The other part was like the other health applications, like dermatology application that can
Yep.
like detect 295 skin disorders,
Yep.
and diabetic retinopathy was another one that we that was briefly touched upon. But
Uh-huh.
I know there's a lot of research going behind the scene, and there are a lot of doctors involved in that application.
Mammogram.
And finally, the geothermal investment that will
Uh-huh.
enable 100% carbon
They
free
they
twenty four
did
seven.
did they say where that was? We were assuming Iceland, but do you happen to know where? Oh, no, they said it was
Arizona or Phoenix?
yeah, it was
What I
some
heard
Nevada.
was Nevada.
Nevada,
they
Nevada,
did
yeah.
say Nevada. Well, I was trying to figure that out. Wasn't aware there was any kind of opportunities for that there, but apparently there is.
Tyler,
Yeah.
can I ask a question,
Sure.
please? Heidi, this is Magnus. Yesterday we had a room after the Google um, announcement with a lot of dermatologists and tech people, and a lot of comments came around that skin tool and dermatology diagnosis. And as you mentioned, the Google data just reviewed 200 something when there's thousands of skin disorders. And also the other issue that Dr. Roxana brought up, she's in Stanford, and she brought up a JAMA articles that actually the data collection didn't include much of a dark skin population. So I'm wondering if you have more information regarding that, and it will be great if we have a room next time, if you can join us or someone from Google to provide more information. Thank you.
Sure. I don't have data about that application. I'm sure it's just the beginning, and I'm not Google. I'm just employee, and I just express my personal opinions here. But yeah, I heard that there are more than 3,000 actually dermatology disorders that. This is just a fraction of it. So I'm sure this is just the beginning of the most common ones, and this is like a guided help. Uh, and as they mentioned in the breast cancer case, it's just to help triage people with like the higher priority. It's not to replace the doctors. It was my understanding.
Yeah, that's what I got
Yeah.
from it as well, because I have a
Oh.
friend who has a very, very similar app based out of Sweden, where they do exactly that. But I just want to say it's an absolute pleasure to have you join us. And my God, it would have been fantastic if we had met 24 hours earlier. to have your comments as we watched it. But we had a fantastic time, I have to say. It was really a real pleasure having everyone on stage with their various diverse backgrounds, kind of sharing their inputs as we went through it, because the event crossed so many different disciplines, from e-commerce to medtech to fintech and etc. Right? So, but your electrical engineering background would have been very interesting as well. Did
Well,
you?
I appreciate that. I missed that opportunity. I hope I will not miss that next time.
Yeah, exactly. But let me just say, your skill set is very useful in helping us analyze a lot of the headlines that we address from around the world each day here. If I was born and raised in San Diego, so if you need any help there, my mom is still there. So let me know if you need any help as a local there.
Thank you.
Yeah, and hopefully, yeah. Do hang around. You're welcome on stage anytime. And if you do find interesting headlines that you think you want to share with the room here, what we do is we dive deep from a very multidisciplinary perspective, both geographically and professionally, and that's things always get very interesting because so much of the articles don't get really into. They're often incapable of doing what we as a group are able of doing, is the lesson we see over and over here. So I hope you join us and get to experience that yourself. Johan, you're jumping in?
Yeah, the thing is that I sent you Google news both as a DM, and I tweeted to the ordinary channel as well. The thing is that Google is bringing back, drum roll, RSS feed
Oh,
to
really?
the browser. Yeah, I just found it, and I thought it's a wonderful thing to close up the room with. You should be able to find it in your DMs. You weren't done speaking.
I did not hear about this. I'll try and find that because
I did. I tweeted it to you. You
okay.
should have it.
Oh, yeah, you and 5,000 other people are tweeting me things every 5 minutes, so it's
sorry, dude.
it's called the needle in the haystack effect. Let's see.
Hey, Taylor.
Yes.
Did people talk about the Chinese government banned the cryptocurrency of all the leading financial institutes in China?
The mining in Mongolia. Yes, we did talk about that.
Leon, you can continue to discuss in the next room, the blockchain room, if you want.
Yeah,
we already discussed.
But
no, I'm not interested in this. I just want to share.
Yeah, but it's a really interesting headline.
Do you know? Probably there's another one. Probably you guys didn't know. After Chinese, netizen created a Ibashino coin, they created another one, very direct, called a loser coin.
Are they selling well?
Really well.
Yeah. Speaking of China, a headline that just came out literally 10 minutes ago. So this is breaking news. And also news that I predicted about 2 months ago. And I wonder if Cal will remember my prediction on this one. The headline is from Reuters, again, 10 minutes ago. Ericsson is, as you know, Ericsson and Huawei are the two biggest
network companies,
two biggest players in 5G. And Ericsson's in Stockholm, where I work, I am based professionally, and Huawei is based in China. And Ericsson and I made the comment about 2 months ago when we started this room. I said it's very interesting because Sweden is thinking about banning Huawei in Sweden. Sweden has Ericsson, so Sweden doesn't really need Huawei. They have Ericsson, so and there was a really interesting person who was telling the prime minister, please do not ban Huawei in Sweden. Do you remember who I said that person was? It was the CEO of Ericsson was saying, please don't ban Huawei in Sweden.
They were in the same building, right?
Well, no, but the reason next door, but the reason that Ericsson doesn't want Huawei banned in Sweden is because he's very correctly worried that if Sweden bans Huawei in Sweden, that China will ban Ericsson in China. and 20% or so of Ericsson's business is in China. So Ericsson's going to get the shit kicked out of it in China if Sweden bans Huawei. So hence the CEO of Ericsson is begging Sweden, please don't ban Huawei in Sweden. We're not going to buy it anyway, so there's no reason to ban it. No one's going to buy Huawei in Sweden, but please don't ban it, because if you ban it, then Ericsson's going to get banned in China. And so the headline that just broke 10 minutes ago from Reuters is Ericsson's China ambitions in jeopardy over Sweden's Huawei ban. So apparently the prime minister did not listen to the CEO of Ericsson begging to not ban Huawei, and they're going to go ahead and ban it because America is telling Sweden to ban it, and Sweden generally does what America tells it to do, unfortunately. And so now Ericsson's going to get clobbered in China. That's very unfortunate, but that's the headline, as predicted 2 months ago.
No, we had that discussion.
I thank you for remembering,
such
Cal.
an interesting thing. No, we did.
Here it is 2 months later.
And there was also a discussion, as Cheryl is alluding to, about where they were located and all that. It was very, very interesting how these topics just have a thread over months, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
But my question here is, sorry, just quick question, just on. I know we have to move on, but just the pressure that the U.S. has on Sweden. Just quick, what's the just because it's the U.S.?
Yes, well, the U.S. is telling all of its allies to not use Huawei and to
okay, yeah. So it's just the standard.
Correct.
There isn't a special angle to that. Yeah.
It's just tech foreign policy, essentially. And because not so much of the monetary side of it, but more the data side of it, they don't want their allies to be potentially compromised. And so they're telling everyone, please don't do that. And so France recently decided not to. India decided not to. Tokyo was the first to say, hell no, we're not doing that. And, a bunch of the allies are saying no. And then Sweden's unique because Sweden has Ericsson. So, but it's interesting. I mean, Sweden isn't going to really use Huawei, honestly, because Ericsson is such the most important company in Sweden. Like all the Swedes are going to use Ericsson.
In our next room or something, Jonathan can tell you the shenanigans in the UK.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure about how we're working that.
Yeah, I was. I'm somewhat indisposed, but I was going to chime in to say Ericsson is making hay at the moment all around Europe. So all of the Huawei engagements that can no longer proceed, Ericsson is picking up the majority of that business.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, Ericsson's, reaping the windfall in India, most notably. And that's actually delayed India's rollout of 5G, but it was just announced maybe 2 weeks ago. Now they've made their decision. They're going to go full steam. And so anyway.
Just a quick feedback.
Yeah.
Since we have been trying so hard to kill Huawei, how did we do? It's very important, right? So sad news, Huawei's growth was slowed down, like I shared with you guys.
Yeah.
So it's working. They only grow less than 4%.
They're pivoting into more different. Yeah, they go into software and cars, and they're going to grow in other areas.
Yeah, they only grow 4%.
Yeah,
that's a problem.
Yeah,
they're supposed to grow like 20%.
Right.
2020, they only grow 4%.
Yeah.
So all those strategy, all those killing things that reduce their growth by 16%. Big achievement, quote unquote.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so
but
U.S. foreign policy is bad. That's
yes.
the conclusion. This is an old headline. You shared that about 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I had to bite my tongue.
Yeah.
It's the same one.
Yeah.
Leon, sorry.
That's all right. So we've got the crypto newsroom up ahead because I want to save, as my new habit to do, more of these juicy headlines everyone's sharing for the next time we meet, which is tomorrow, my time anyways. But you can see the schedule by clicking on the title of the room where we meet twice a day. Please do gather any interesting headlines that you find and bring them to the table next time where we can jump into them as usual. Ben has started the Wednesday blockchain news room with Donna and others. They've got 30 folks over there already, so we'll see most of you over there hopefully and see you here next time.
And in 40 minutes time we have an alien room